Welcome to another UMLO Extras. And in this extra session, we're going to be talking about the Specification Manager. And we're going to be showing the difference between Specification Manager and Specification View. And to get more help on what Specification Manager is, what you see in the screen is the Sparx Help Center. And you're simply going to use the breadcrumbs to get to Specification Manager. So you go from the index, modeling fundamentals, Specification Manager, and we're going to go right into this subject here. To demonstrate, we're going to use three different types of diagrams. All right, so in this case, we have a cover page that's used for navigation. In this case, we have a requirements. You can tell by the toolbox here, type diagram. And in this case, we have an activity diagram. It just happens to have activity elements and requirements in it. Here, this requirements diagram has requirements and it has other elements in here. And we're going to start with specification view and specification inline view. But first, I want to show you the difference between specification view and Specification Manager. So we're in the requirements management namespace. We have a particular folder or package in this namespace. I'm going to right click on this and you see something called Specification Manager, or you can hit Control-0 to launch it and we're going to bring it up. All right. So if I'm in the diagram and I right click in the diagram and I go to switch views, you see I have particular views of this diagram and its elements. Let's go to switch to specification view. So in this case, I have a view of the elements that are in the diagram. In this case, I have a view of the elements that are in the package in this namespace that is here. So there's a difference between looking at your specifications, the intelligence and data under the elements that are here in this package versus the elements that are in this diagram. If I go to Project Browser, the elements that are in this diagram are more than the elements that are in this namespace, right? I'm in the same namespace, right click, browser, I'm in access. I go to requirements, let me go back. I'm in the requirements. If I Alt-G, I'm in the namespace for requirements, right? I hope this is making sense. Even the features and capabilities are different between these views. In this case, when I go to specification view, I have this tooling that is available. So I can drop elements out in here. I can right click in the header, field chooser, and add these elements back in. If I want to look at a status, I just go up here till it's red. I see the red and I can inject it. If I want to look at priority, I can put it anywhere I want. I'll put it ahead of stereotype. I'm able to have these features in the specification view. If I go to Specification Manager, let me go ahead and close field chooser. I'm able to add in or remove using field chooser. So I can bring in priority. Again, I'm going to put it over this, and let me just bring in stereotype and drag that right there. All right. So I have the different views that are available to me between view, specification view, and specification manager. The difference between Specification Manager and Specification View as far as features and capabilities, in Specification Manager, I have this specification navigation bar that's here. So I'm able to go out to requirements management and see I have other choices between other than access. So if I want to go look at tailoring, I am now in the tailoring folder for requirements. Here are the requirements, specification that are in this folder, right? So I'm able to drill down into specific areas using this navigation. Now we're going to be talking about matrix matrices in the next video, but the next extra video, I should say, but I'm not going to cover that now. So when we go to specification view, let me right click in here, go to specification view. I do not have that navigation capabilities. This navigation capability and bar is different than this package navigation capability. So in package navigation, I talk about in other videos, I'm able to get to the tailoring package. I'm able to get to all the way out, go to access, and then I can drill down into diagrams that are in the package. So this navigation capability is different than this navigation capability. So I like having the specification manager rather than the specification view, but this becomes very productive and powerful, and I'll show you why in different diagrams in just a moment. Now let's close Specification Manager, and then let's hit this back arrow right here and go back to the diagram, right? So in the diagram, there are a couple of different views for specification. So there's the one I just showed you, and there's another powerful one called Inline Specification. So show inline specification. So when I turn that on and to turn it off, I go back to view. You see it's got a check mark next to it. I just click it and turn it off, right? So I'm going to turn it back on again. I like having, instead of notes, see, so notes are here. Let's pick an element right here, 07. Let's pick 05 since it has content in it down here. So notes has this content. Well, the content's all right here as well. So I can do editing here, or I could do editing here. But when I'm modeling, I like to have properties up when I'm going through different elements that are in the diagram. And I show properties quite a bit in other videos, but I like having those up because I'm managing tag values and other metadata that are under particular elements. So I'm able to very quickly get to the intelligence that are under various elements. Let's go to lock rules. As soon as I select it in Inline, it selects it in the diagram. Login failed, goes right to it. And goes right to the properties. You have the properties that are up here. I can very quickly get to particular elements, the intelligence that's under the elements, the metadata that's under the elements as I'm doing my modeling within Sparx Enterprise Architect. So hopefully we're starting to see the difference between specification views and specification manager. So I'm going to go to this package right here, or hit Control-0 when I select the package. I'm going to bring up Specification Manager. So in this case, let me go back out to Access. This specification view is different looking at the same package than this one. This one's only looking at the elements that are under the package. This is looking at the elements that are under the diagram. All right, so let's go back. The diagram versus the package. All right, so the diagram versus the namespace or package. And you very quickly can get to content and be able to manage your content, your intelligence as you're moving between models. Let's go ahead and close this model. There we go. And then let's look at this model. And these are the requirements that are relevant to this model. This diagram just happens to include external elements. This is from the activity diagrams. This is from the use case namespace or diagram, right? So these are outside of requirements. These are inside this namespace for requirements, all right? Big difference. Now, what you'll often see me do is I'm going to drag and drop this window, and I'm just going to put it to the right of the diagram. And then I'm over on the diagram, I'm going to turn on pan and zoom. So I'll often just do it this way. I can move around the diagram. I can select elements that are in the diagram, and then I can edit in Specification Manager each one of the requirements. However, if I have the browser on and I'm selecting these, they're not going right to the element as the feature that we get in views. I have to go to the element that's here and then hunt and peck where it is in the diagram. I can right click on any element and find the diagram that I'm looking at. And in this case, this requirement is in two different diagrams. I'm in the access diagram. I hit OK. It goes right to it. But you see the time that it takes me to find the diagram is, it's a few clicks. And all that can add up when you're trying to do a specification. So I'm going to close Specification Manager. I'm going to come back over here, and I am going to go to Switch Views, Show Inline Specification. Go ahead and save. So in this case, as I'm going to elements, they're going to the specifications, right? But when I'm on the elements, they're not going to the elements that are in the diagram. And I don't have a problem with that because I'm doing my authoring here. I'm not doing it here, right? So I very quickly can move around. I can go to pan and zoom and move around, and I can very quickly get to the elements that I want to edit and work on, as well as instantly see the properties that are here. And I can get to other things such as traceability. I can select an element. I can see everything that it's relevant to, including its requirements. From traceability, I can right click. I can find them in the diagrams very quickly. So you're going to get very fast at this. But why are we using Sparx? It's for the data. It's not for the pictures per se. It's for the data, the intelligence. In other tools, it's hard to get to the data. It's hard to manage your documentation and the intelligence that are under your models. And sometimes these models, they're going to last for releases, projects, months, years. The data could last the length of the company. And when you're in other tools and your model driving your business or whatever your objective is, the most important thing is the intelligence, the knowledge, being able to reuse it. So Specification Manager, extremely powerful, very important that we understand the difference between the views versus the Specification Manager. All right, so we go back to projects here, browser, we're going to bring up Specification Manager. So learn how to use Specification Manager, whether you're at a diagram level. You could go to a diagram level, find the diagram in the browser. Now we're in the diagrams. We can go up to the package namespace. We can turn on Specification Manager, and we can manage the intelligence under the elements that are in this package namespace. So once you learn how to use specification views and Specification Manager, you're going to be able to manage your data and your intelligence across your project life cycles, your delivery life cycles, much faster. All right, that concludes this session. I hope it was helpful for you. A lot of people have been asking me about Specification Manager, having some problems with it. So you have access to Sparx help screens that can step you through it. Play around with it yourself in your training projects and start to use it. I think you're going to find it extremely beneficial. So until the next session, happy modeling.